I am who I am because of my mother. She never gives up. She has always been there fighting for us. But once, only once, I've seen her give up. My mother has always been my strength. She has done everything she can do. I mean, she has done everything a mother can do to give her children a very comfortable life. And I have seen this personally. I have seen a resilient woman who has worked day and night without giving up. But once, only once in her life, I saw my mom come to the verge of giving up. And I understand her. Imagine walking into a room and the first thing you see is your son, your only son, 3-year-old, lying in a pool of vomit on the verge of death, staring at you, unable to breathe, no pulse in him. That's what my mother saw when she walked in that night. Me lying there, helpless, breathing my last. She couldn't believe it. The only thing she could do was just stare at me and hope and pray that I will make it, that I will not die while she still had another child on her back, also fighting for her life. Hello, Happy New Year, guys. Happy New Year, family. If you're watching us for the first time, Jambo and Karibu Sana, welcome. This is a channel where you get to hear real life stories. We give you as it is, try to inspire, educate, and entertain you. And I have decided this year to do a very special thing for you all. I've realized that we have become a family, yet we don't know one another. So I've taken it upon myself to introduce myself, to reintroduce myself, and so that you can understand who Joe is, and at some point you're going to understand who Joy is. For now, she's not going to be in the videos. Apologies for that. As you understand, we are 5 months pregnant now, and we have decided it's good that I take her off the media first, off the social media for now, from the videos, until the day the baby comes, and then she's gonna come. But that does not mean she's gonna be out forever. She'll be making appearances here and there. But in the meantime, I have decided to give you a life story of myself from day one, from the first time I came to this world, so that you can understand where I come from, what makes me, me, where I get my resilience, my personality basically. And I'm made up of many things. And today I'm gonna tackle the very best, or maybe my tool power, or my tool of power, and is stubbornness. I wonder, most of you are wondering how can being stubborn be a tool of power. But it depends in what circumstances, how stubborn you are. There are those people who are annoyingly stubborn, and there are those people who are, can I call it, good stubborn? I think I'm the kind of good stubborn. This means I'm resilient. I never give up. Whatever I need, I go for it and I push, even if it means sometimes getting on people's nerve. And I've done that so many times. And this is a character that, or a personality that I can consider both as a strength or as a weakness. This stubbornness starts back in 1992, around May. because I was born on May 5th, 1992. That's something now you know about me. Alright, sasa tell me hata nini uniambie age yenu. So my mom goes into labor. She's due. She has not broken her water yet, but she can feel something is happening, and it's happening soon. The long-awaited son, the second born, the only son, is coming. He is on his way. But unlike many children or many women who go to the hospital after a few hours, you break water, you go into labor, and boom, you have given birth. My mom stays into labor for about 12 hours. Nothing is happening. She has not broken her water yet, and I think that's the story. And she's getting now impatient. The doctor advised her to make a few laps around the hospital block, and she does that. Like the first time she goes, takes a rest, does the second one, takes a rest, and then does the third and the fourth, takes a rest, and then she waits, but nothing happens. The only thing that is increasing is the pain. 24 hours pass, still nothing. Now, the second day, the doctor starts now thinking of how to induce labor so that she can give birth and go back home, because as it is, it is not good for a woman to be in labor for such a long time. But then they decide, my mom is very stubborn as well. I think that's where I get it from her. So she decides, you know what, I'm gonna wait for this child. I don't want to be induced, neither do I want to go for a CS cesarean section. I don't know if it's being stubborn or it's her belief. She just wanted to do it the natural way, and she waits. 48 hours pass, and now on the third day, the doctor saying, you know what, woman, this is it. We are going to take this as an emergency. We are not going to listen to you because now this is becoming serious. You're gonna lose you, and you're gonna lose your baby. So it's a matter of life and death, and my mom actually sees this is serious. Her entire body is in pain. She decides, you know what, I'm gonna go to the theater, have a CS. But something happens, and I start coming out. But unlike now, I think because of that stubborn nature, I decided, you know what, I've been late. I'm gonna come out in a hurry, and I'm gonna start with the leg. Alright, so I start coming out, legs first. I know babies are supposed to come out head first, but I decided, you know what, I'm gonna do it my way. Being stubborn me, I start coming out to the legs first. This is the worst part. I come out. I come out one leg first. The other one is stuck inside. And the doctors, it's unusual to have a baby coming out with the legs first, but when it's only one leg, now this becomes very serious, and the doctors are like, you know what, this is an emergency, we have to do what we have to do. So my mother is being taken to the theater, but then they don't know if they should start the procedure yet or keep pulling me so that I can come out, because they might start operating on my mom and then I die in the process because I'm already out one leg. So it's a bit of a tricky situation, but miracles do happen, and they happen. The other legs come out, and I am pulled. I think I was pulled by suction or something. Okay, so my mom didn't go for the CS, though she was being prepared for theater, and I ended up being born. 3.8 kilos. I was that big. My mom says I was so big that my eyes were shut for some days before I could open them. Even if I wanted to open them, I couldn't. I was that big. And she blames it on the eggs, very many eggs she eats. And up to date, I eat so many eggs. So that's me, being stubborn. Start there. But you will think that my stubbornness will stop there. But then it comes on later on. Right? One thing, I was not a noisy kid. I was so chilled. I was so chilled to the point that my mom would just feed me. This is what she tells me. She will feed me, and I would go straight to sleep. I would sleep so much that few times she thought I had passed out or I was dead. Because as long as I was fed, I would sleep for like 18 hours straight until she had to wake me up again so that I could feed and then go back to sleep. Sometimes she tells me she would leave me sleeping. Maybe she has left me sleeping at around 10 a.m. She comes back in the afternoon to check on me. I'm still sleeping. Goes, does her things, comes back and finds I'm already awake. I'm entertaining myself. I was a self-sufficient baby. No crying, no nothing. Just looking at the ceiling and wondering. I think I was meditating. Yeah, I think a lot, by the way. I'm a thinker. I think so many things. Sometimes you'll find me just meditating, building castles in the sky, and that's the kind of baby I was. I was a meditator. I would never cry, but that never lasted for long because after 3 months I stopped feeding. I was like, you know what, me and boobs, we are done. Yeah, that explains a lot. Come to think of it. Anyway, so I decided, you know what, I don't want any more of mom's milk. I'm done with the milk. I'm not gonna feed anymore. So I started losing weight, and my mom was scared. She had to take me to the hospital. So the doctor says, you know, the baby is too young. You cannot feed them anything else. You have to force them to eat. So I was forced to breastfeed until I was like 6 months, and then I was done with boobs. Me and boobs from that day. So so I was introduced to foods, but I was a very picky eater. I still am. I'm a very picky eater, and that went on until I was taken to Shanks. Yeah, I was taken to my grandmother to be staying with them. I'll tell you why I was taken there together with my sister, the firstborn. I didn't know yet why we were taken there, but I came to learn later on, and that is gonna come back later on in the series. So this today, I'm just talking about how stubborn I was as a baby from the birth. In the process, so I stayed at Shags with my grandfather and my grandmother. I was so close with my grandfather. He passed on in 1998. May God rest his soul. We were so close of friends that we'll call each other body. You know, I used to think as a kid that body meant friend, but what I didn't know was my grandfather was trying to pronounce the word buddy, but he couldn't say buddy, so he would say body. And I learned this because he had a friend who would call him Budi, Weko, from outside the gate in Shags. And then I would answer the same, Budi, and then, yeah. So we became friends, my grandfather, his best friend, and I. And then my sister, my sister, yeah. So it was just our own clique. So I stayed there. This is the funny thing. I didn't walk until I was, I think, 2.5, going to 3 years. You'll expect most kids to be walking and talking by the time they are 2. Nowadays, kids are even walking at 1 year old. I was super slow, and this raised so many concerns with everyone, including my own mother, because she thought, because of not breastfeeding well and the complications she had while giving birth to me, and my weird habits, not crying at all. I never cried as a baby, you know. I was just there chilled, you know. She thought maybe this kid is not okay, maybe something is wrong with his brain, That's why he can't even talk, he can't even walk. And any attempt to take me to the hospital didn't bear any fruits. And yeah, and everyone else gave up, and they knew this baby is not gonna walk, and if it's gonna walk, let it just happen. At its own time. I'm sure you're wondering, how then did I used to move? I would move using my butt. I would sit and slide on my butt. I use my hand to push myself and then slide on my butt. That's how I used to walk. I never crawled. You see, that's the worst part. If a baby is crawling, that's good. That's good progress. But if they're moving on their butt, then you know something's wrong here. So yeah, my grandmother tells me, because I was still in shags when I started working. I think I was 2 years, 2.5. That I was just seated there minding my own business, playing with mud. If I needed to move, I'll just crawl on my butt, just laid on my butt, and then one day I just stood and ran. Like it was like a celebration in my grandmother's house that I was able to achieve that. So that happened, and then we moved back to the city where my mom and my dad were, and unfortunately my sister developed a problem. She started getting sick often and getting big. Like she would get big. I mean, it wasn't normal as a kid. When kids are getting big, you think they are feeding well, but my sister would get big, but she wasn't feeding well because she would vomit every time, like get sick, vomit every time she ate. So my mom became concerned and took her to the hospital. So they ran some tests over a period of time, and they didn't know what the problem was until the situation became critical. I think it's after like 4 or 5 months that they discovered that my sister had a heart problem. And they discovered this because she couldn't breathe. They thought she was asthmatic, but she wasn't. So she couldn't breathe, and she couldn't walk, because if she walked a little bit, it's like right now with the coronavirus symptoms, like the way you do a small task and then you are panting, you are running out of breath, you're gasping for air, but yeah, all those things. That's how she was. She couldn't do much. It got to a point where even going to school was a problem, and sometimes she would just stay at home for a whole week without going anywhere. So my mom started getting stressed, and because she couldn't concentrate at her business, she's a very advent business lady, and yeah, she's a business lady, and she couldn't concentrate with whatever she was doing because she was concerned about my sister. So when they discovered that, so this one time, after they have discovered that my sister had a heart problem, and the problem was that it was growing unproportional to her body. The heart was growing faster than her body was, so it was getting a lot of pressure from the rib cage, and it was applying pressure to all other organs around, including her lungs. That's why she couldn't even breathe well. And any small task could just raise her heart, increase the blood pressure. So many things was going on with her. And I think she was like 5. She was like 5, and I was like 3 or 3.5. Yeah, so they started now. The doctors advised that the only option is for my sister to be operated. My mom is a very prayerful woman, and she doesn't like so much of these doctors or professional opinions. Yeah, she believed what they said, but what she didn't like about them is telling her that my sister had like 6 months to live. If she wasn't operated, she was gonna die. that's a very difficult place to be as a parent, being told that your child only has a limited time to live, and you have all these hopes for them, you have all these things for them, So she didn't want to hear anything the doctors had to say, especially concerning that she had very limited time to live. But that's what it was. They said she had to be operated, and it needed to be soon. Right. So my mom started collecting money. She had spent a lot of money before they discovered what was wrong with my sister to take her to the hospital. Now she has to get other kind of funds for the operation, even if she doesn't want to do it, but she doesn't want to lose the daughter. So this one night, this fateful night, where my stubbornness shot through the roof and pushed my mom to the verge of giving up. It was around, I think, 6 p.m. It was just my sister, my mom, the house help, the house manager, and just the four of us. My dad had not come home yet. So we are just chilling there. My sister is resting, feeling sick and everything, taking her medicine. She had if I was told to describe the kind of medicine she took, I would say, oh, there were a lot: liquid, solid, powder, different kind of, and medicine for everything. I don't know even how to describe, because she used to have headache, she had painkillers for that. She used to cough a lot, for that. She couldn't breathe, she had medicine for that. High blood pressure, she had medicine for that. She had, basically, this kid was taking all kind of medicine known to man. And we had this cupboard full of my sister's medicine, and I could see my mom giving to her. And as a kid, you feel, we are stupid. You feel left out. You're like, why is everyone else giving my sister all the attention? Kitambo, a while back, I was getting the attention, being the youngest. Now my sister has taken over. Everyone is coming to check on my sister. Everyone is there by her side. What about me? What about Joe? Being a kid is being a kid and stupid is, it can cost you. Anyway, so I didn't understand all this. I came to understand later. So this day, my sister gets sick. She starts to vomit. She cannot breathe. She cannot do anything. My mom panics. She tries to give her medicine, and the first aid she was told by the doctor to be doing, nothing happens. As time goes on, my sister goes into shock, and she kind of collapses. I think it was a mini coma or something. She cannot breathe. She is out. The panic that hit my mom and the house manager. Everyone is running helter-skelter around the house trying to get help. My mom is screaming, calling neighbors to come. They got a car and off they drove. But before they left, my mom left me. It was around 6 when this happened. By the time they are leaving the house, it's around 6:30. The dinner was ready, but there was no one there to feed me, and they could not take me with them because it was an emergency. So my mom locked the kitchen, and she gave me food and tea. Those plastic jugs, the small one, the 1 liter one. She put tea in there, gave me food, told me to eat, and if I got sleepy, if it got to around 8 or 9, no, actually she told me to not lock the door, eat and drink the tea and sleep on this couch until they came back, and not to go outside or anything, or open the gate, because the gate was locked from outside. They didn't want me locking the doors in case they came back and found me asleep. Right? The reason why she left me alone was that she knew my dad was about to come back home. He wasn't far off because he used to come around 8, around 7, 8, and it's around 6:30, maybe in 30 minutes he will come back. But she didn't want to leave me starving. That was it. Those were the orders. I eat, not open the gate for anyone, drink my tea, sleep until my dad came home, and then they will talk. Kitambo, they didn't have phones. There were no phones. Okay, we didn't have a phone in the house. There was no mobile phone. There was no way of communicating. So if my dad came, I was the one to relay the message that they took my sister to the hospital. So I was left, and everyone else left. What I came to learn later on was that somehow the message got to my dad that my sister was sick and she had been rushed to the hospital. So instead of coming home, he decided to go straight to the hospital. And I think that's where the blunder happened. Now I'm a 3-year-old, 3.5, left unattended, bored, no TV, no nothing, with food and tea. I finish, I go to sleep. That was it. And you remember, guys, I told you I'm a very stubborn person. You know what? I don't know what came to my mind or how I got to that thought, but I decided, you know what? There's something I see my mom giving my sister, but they never give me. And they hide it somewhere. So something told me, I don't know if it's that devilish voice that told me, you know what, go check it out, see what's there, see what they give your sister that they can never give to you. Maybe if you take it, everyone else will give you the same attention. I stood, went to the cupboard, opened, and there were boxes, different kind of boxes. I started opening one by one. Some were tablets, capsules, powder, liquid, and I will take, I will take one, put it in my mouth. If it was bitter, put it back in. If it was sweet, I will take a few. Now this is the thing. Most children medicine are sweet. So most of the medicines that I would taste were sweet. Unknown to me that doing that was dangerous, I took each and every medicine that was sweet, and then took my tea and chilled and waited. 7 p.m., 8 p.m., no one was home. It was just myself. I decided, you know what, that thing was sweet, let me take it again, but this time I'm gonna put it in my tea so that I can increase the sweetness of my tea. So I took tablets, poured them in my tea, different kind of tablets, liquid, poured. I remember even pouring some of the liquid medicine to almost half in my tea, stirred, and then I started drinking. I remember this because these are few childhood memories that I have, but the tea was tasting so bad and the smell was so bad, but I could not stop drinking it. I drank until I completed the whole tea with all the medicines, the concoction of medicine in it. It did not take long before I started feeling funny. First started with feeling dizzy, tried to stand up, but I could not stand up. I had this feeling of euphoria, and it was very, very weird. I felt drowsy and fell asleep. but I did not sleep for so long because I think I had nightmares. I don't know if it was nightmare or hallucination, but I remember seeing people and having visions. It was a very weird experience. And then I started now vomiting. All the food that I had eaten, all of it, plus the tea and everything I'd eaten the previous day and the day before that, 2 months ago, came out, and I became so weak. I started sweating. I could not walk. I think I passed out on the floor because I remember smelling my vomit and it was smelling medicine. I remember looking up and I could see the light dancing. Everything that stood before me was dancing. It was looking weird. And that's when the door opened. The sitting room door opened. The maid got in first. The first thing she did was scream. She yelled. My mom was concerned, didn't know what was happening. She walked in second with my sister on her back. They had been discharged, I think, they had been helped, but my sister was so weak, she was on her back fighting for her own life. I think my dad was outside. And I remember my mom looking at me and she stood there. She did not know where to start, what to do. I was there drenched, drowning in a pool of vomit, looking at her, trying to breathe, trying to figure out what was happening. And I think it was that moment that she gained, I think, an iota of strength, put my sister down on the couch, approached me, and the first thing she did was touch me. I was cold, dead cold. There was no warmth in my body. My mom screamed and went outside. She yelled. She didn't want to enter the house again. Her only son was dead, according to her. I was gone. You know. Now, because of my sister event, some neighbors had come with them and they tried to figure out what was happening because they had been left outside. My mom and the house help had gone in first, and my mom couldn't explain what had happened, you know. So they had come in the house, look at me, and they looked at each other. No one knew what was gonna happen. After a few minutes, my mom came back in the house, took a cover, bedsheet cover, and covered me. My mom is a fighter. She has always fought for us. She never gives up for anything. But I think at this point, with whatever was going on with her daughter and now me, she had given that. She had thought maybe God had pulled our jobs on her. You know that trick God pulled on Job where he took all his kids and everything he had? I think that's what went on in my mom's mind. She just covered me and said, "It is okay, it is well," and kept quiet. Then she walked outside. It was the neighbors that decided, you know what, let's take this kid to the hospital and see what they can do. My mom told them, no need to spend any more money in the hospital. Whatever has happened, because they could see the boxes of medicine on the table. I had filled the table with the boxes of medicine. There was no way I was gonna survive that. And my mom knew, and she gave up. That was the very first time my mom gave up on anything. But good for my neighbors, they never gave up. They just took me, cold as I was, lifeless as I was, breathless as I was, and they took me to the hospital. Yo, that was a moment and a half for my mom. But that was not the only trying time that we have endured. And the reason I've decided to start with these stories before I get onto how I became a pilot, I've decided that I start like this so that you understand where I come from. Because the biggest lessons I've learned in life is that sometimes you just look at people walking, but you don't know the stories they carry. Sometimes we have an option and a chance and an opportunity to be nice to people, but we choose to be otherwise, yet we don't know what battles people have fought to be where they are. We just assume. And I've decided to start with this story so that you understand who is Joe, where does he come from? Why does he think the way he thinks? Why does he treat people the way he treats people? Why does he do the things he does? And if you want these and many more stories, stick around, because here is where you belong. And I can promise you, utafurahia. You will love it. Anyway, cheers until next time for the next story. Same time, same place. Tupatane.